I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Elisa Lynch, and I have the pleasure of introducing Joe Petrosksi today. Joe is known as the Magic Man. He has changed my life in ways that only God understands. 2011 October, it was just 14 years ago this month, I was severely injured in a boating accident, and I was fighting for my life. I had broken my back in the middle of the ocean after we hit a rogue wave. And in that moment, I lost control of everything below my waist. I didn't know where my legs were. I'd love to introduce Joe Petrosksi to you guys today, and I know you're going to love him just as much as I do. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Lisa. And yeah, she was told that she was never going to walk again. And when we had actually met, it was something that you didn't have hardly any feeling at all. And it was more electronic shocks than it was feeling. And when we started to work together, she started to have some feelings in her glutes and in her thighs and down in the front of the muscles. And she could feel a whole lot of connection, a whole lot of energy. And now she's got feeling in her calves, she's got feeling in her feet. And so it's an amazing process, because I told her when I met you that it was going to be spiritual, it wasn't going to be physical. And because she was trying all the physical stuff. She worked out like a fiend. The physical therapy that she did, going to the gym, was amazing. And yet it was still elusive. So, how many here have done things like that, where you've done all of the mindset work? You've done all the reading, all the retreats, and you still feel there's something missing. That it's like, you pray to God that there's more to life than this. Or you still deal with some kind of pain or illness. How many? Yeah, okay. Exactly. I can totally empathize with you. In 1999, the doctors actually sent me home to die. I had worked with over 9 doctors in that time period. It was interesting. I practiced this so many times, and I'm getting emotional. Like she said, when the doctors tell you, and especially when you have 9 doctors say that you are going to die, there's nothing that you can do. And they had nearly 1.5 inches worth of medical tests proving that. And I was so emaciated that you can actually see the difference between the cartilage and the bone in my nose. You can see the difference between the cartilage and the bones in my ribs. That's how emaciated I was. During that time period, everyday chemicals, hair mousse, hand lotion, dishwasher detergent, car exhaust, fertilizer, you name it, anything would actually cause me to have blood flow cut off to a certain part of my brain, and I would lose my vision. I saw this bouncing white thing in the living room, and they asked me, it's like, what? I think that was my daughter, that she was a cokehead. But I honestly couldn't tell you. And that big green thing that was outside in the front yard, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know that it was a car. I couldn't tell you that it was a car. They had my wife at the time move art around in the house, and then they would ask, it's like, what is this? And I said, well, that's the cat in the vase. I was like, she'd actually changed it. It was the picture inside the bowl, and I couldn't tell you that. I would have pain so bad that if you've ever had a migraine and you felt that intense pain and it hurts to move your head, you don't want to see, you don't want to hear, I would have pain so bad through the whole body. I would have so much pain that if I just moved a teeny bit, it would just hurt. And I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom, but I didn't want to move because it hurt that bad. And just imagine that every movement that I did just set all of this stuff in my body. My body was killing itself. And 9 of the best doctors didn't know how to stop it. And the Social Security psychologist, when he came to my hearing, the judge had said, well, you don't need to be here. You must have something really, really important to say. And he says, Your Honor, he says, I am very, 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 very concerned about Mr. Petrosksi. He has this absolutely unrealistic expectation he's going to live. Absolutely unrealistic expectation he's going to live. And then he turned to me and he said, Mr. Petrosksi, you are going to die. And it's going to be relatively soon. and you probably will kill yourself. He says, you have to come to grips with that. And I don't know how you're supposed to come to grips with killing yourself, especially when I have a little daughter. But that's what it was. And so I completely, totally understand and have the empathy for you people. It's like, when people ask me, it's like, did you know you had these gifts when you were a kid? I wouldn't know. Every single thing that I ever thought or ever felt was beat out of me and screamed at me. People say it's better be seen and not heard. Like, well, they can't see you, they can't hit you. And so I learned to hide and I learned to shut up. So when I went, I had searched everything. I had tried Reiki, Qigong, shamanic healing, I tried NAET, I tried Bioset, you name it, I tried it. And nothing worked. And a friend of mine, I was in a support group for people with chronic illness. And she called up and she said, Joe, there's this healer in town. He's actually helping some of our friends. And I'm like, really? And it was very interesting because I was going through a really nasty divorce. And they were using the illness to keep my daughters away from me. And I couldn't give up the time to, when I was with my daughter, I couldn't give that up because if I did, they would use that against me. And so she told me this guy's in town, and speaking on Monday night, the only time I could go was Thursday. Because what would happen is when I would get sick and I couldn't see, I would be so darn busy that they wanted to give me a walker. I was in my 30s. I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm going to have a walker. I refused to have a walker. But my wife at the time was so upset because I would have pieces of furniture. I would move the chairs and the tables so I could go from chair to table to go to the bathroom. So she went on Monday night and she called me up and she said, Joe, they added that Thursday. And so I stood up like, okay, I'm going. And when I went, this 35th generation Shaolin teacher picked me out of the crowd of 150 people. He said, you can do this work too. And I looked at him like, well, I'm the dude that's dying. Like, what do you mean? I'm dying. I need some help. And I went to him and his students. And after the second hour session, I no longer needed the oxygen. I could be exposed to chemicals, and instead of losing my vision, and instead of saying horrible, disgusting things to people I loved and cared about, I was fine. I was absolutely, I couldn't believe it. And after the third session, I was perfectly healthy. I was still skinny as could be, but nothing made me sick anymore. I could eat whatever I wanted for the first time in over 6 years. I couldn't have any sugar at all. I couldn't even eat an orange or a carrot because they had too much sugar. If I had that, my body would itch so bad I would want to rip my throat out. It drove me that crazy. So I've been there. I know what it's like. And you can come on in.
Is this the body and soul thing?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And so today there's a couple of things I want to be able. Actually, 3 things I want to do. One is in a little bit, I'm going to ask for volunteers. So anybody that has an ache or a pain, just raise your hand when I call. And if I'll see and choose you possibly to work on you. And the idea is to basically show everybody how quickly we can decrease it. We might not get rid of all of it in this time, but we want to be able to show people that it can actually go down. And then the second thing is people that want to do it readings. So when I did this study, I sat with the Shaolin master for 3.5 years before I was given the Masters of Chinese Energy. But my biggest, huge shift was when I sat with a Native American. When I went to the reservation, this elder called me over, and I thought he was Native, but this never happened. And the Native said, sit with me. And so I did. And most of the time, that's all we did was sit. And I would sit with him, and he opened up to Creator and Spirit, and he felt the energy of the rocks, the trees, and people. And that's when I started to feel it too. And so I can read everybody. I don't look unless you ask. To me, I think it's one of the most personal things. Energy, when I look at you, it's like reading your diary. Well, what I do is every single day is I set up a prayer and the intention to only see what I need to see, only hear what I need to hear, and only feel what I need to feel. So what that means is when I look at you, instead of seeing the worst of the worst, it'll show up like a manila envelope, and it'll say, sadness, or it'll say sickness, or it'll say, trauma, but it won't necessarily say, It'll only say the specifics if you need to know the specifics and be able to heal those. So when I do the readings, it's going to be specific enough, but generic enough. I'm not going to call you out. You know? So we're going to do the healing, we're going to do the readings, and then also what I want to do is I want to teach you guys some energy mastery power positions. And this is a good point. So take out your phones. This is one time we're allowed to take out your phones. And I want you to type in joep360.com. And if you type Joep, JOEP360.com. And that's my contact information. And there's a few things on there. There's a free meditation that I do every single Monday night. And it's a healing meditation. The angels will come and give messages. And then on there also is the link to the energy mastery power positions. And these are so strong that when I teach them to athletes, what we'll do is we'll have that.
We're slow.
Yeah, JOE and then P360.com. And then when you go on there, you can actually save the contact that you want. Or on the upper right, you can click the X. And then on the other page, on the top left, it will say contact. And you can just text me, and then I can send you and make sure you get the video and the PDF for the energy mastery positions. And I can send you the link for the meditation. And you're welcome any Monday night. So one of the techniques I'm going to teach you is that when I teach it to the athletes, we'll have them compete for cash. And if you know athletes, okay, they're eager. They're huge ego. They're not going to let their body beat them. And so they will compete like they're like dependent on them. And they'll win, or they'll lose. And then what I'll do is I'll ask everybody to do this one set of movements. And then we will re-challenge them. And when we re-challenge them, every single athlete, every single one, is able to outperform what they just did to win the cash. So, and in 2017, when I was working with Nova Southeastern University women's volleyball team, the women there coined the Google movement, because they were all going to college as well as playing. And they would use this technique before they would take the class. And when they would do it before they take the class, they would go to class, and then after class they would do it. And then when they would come back and take the test, they would do it again. And they found that their recall was so much higher and their intuition was so much higher. And it also really created a cohesiveness on the team. So I'm going to teach you that one. And then another one just to bring some feeling of safety. And then how many have felt that somebody's in your energy field, or you feel like somebody's an energy vampire, and you just want to have them go away, or you just want them to... Yeah, exactly. So this one is really, really powerful. And if you practice it a lot, you can do this. And for example, there was a woman that I was in a lawsuit with, and she had a really flexible relationship with the truth. And it was, her relationship with the truth was so skeptical, but her lawyer believed her just like that. And so I asked both lawyers, and I said, let's just take a 10-minute break. And then after the 10 minutes, I just want to come in and speak for 3 minutes, and whatever you say, I'll accept. And my lawyer looked at me, yeah, my lawyer looked at me and he said, you told me to burn this shit. You said, hell be damned, that you weren't going to give in. I said, well, yeah, but this is a negotiation. We can change our negotiation. And just give me that 3 minutes. And so for the next 10 or 15 minutes, I did this one set of movements. And then when they all came back into the room, I did this set of movements to the ex-person that I was dealing with. And she wasn't able to finish her sentences. And that's how powerful this is. My mentor actually taught this one technique to women that were in an abuse shelter. And they found that it was so powerful that it really brought their energy in. But if you have somebody that's in your energy field and you want them out, this is one way to do it. And so I'm going to teach you those three, and I'm going to do the readings. And so, so who has an acre of pain that you're feeling, and you can put it on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay. Okay, I'll come back around. So Sam, what do you got going on?
I've had this persistent pain in my left shoulder.
Okay.
Probably about a 6 or 7.
Six,
I
yeah.
have a really high pain tolerance.
Okay, so right now it's in a 6 or 7?
It's been very uncomfortable for days.
Okay, cool. And you?
My left hip,
Okay.
and 10 is the worst, and 1 is I feel nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe like a 5 or 6.
Yeah, and you probably a little bit higher than that.
I
Yeah.
think maybe from working out, so I did recently, but
Okay. And so you had something?
Burning itching arms, and when it gets, it's sometimes 10, between 7 and 10.
Okay. Lower left back. Okay. Great. And I just tinnitus. Okay. Okay. So I want everybody here to be really, really open, because what ends up happening is everybody knows the gang mentality, right? You know, or when you watch a sporting event all by yourself, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. But then when you go to the arena, everybody just goes crazy. Well, that kind of energy works with healing too. Because when I do this, everybody's rooting for the person. It's like, oh my God, I hope they feel better. I hope they feel better. And so that energy is going to happen. So just be open to the healing. And it always happens that I'll work on somebody maybe over here, and somebody way in the back over there has a healing too. And it's pretty cool. I had given a presentation one time in Minnesota, and it was very dark, and the room was very, very poorly lit. And I was working on somebody up in the front. And at the end of the presentation, the brother of the guy that had hosted me came up. And all of a sudden he goes, God, it's like, I just don't know what's going on. And it's just like, it's just the weirdest thing. I'm just like, okay, what's this? This is kind of spastic. What the heck's going on? And all of a sudden his brother caught on, and they just started to laugh. His brother was up for a shoulder surgery on the Tuesday after my presentation. And he had been in pain for 7 years, and he couldn't do this. And after the presentation, he could. So that's...
Does this work on Bell's palsy?
I've worked with some people that have that, yeah.
Because it's a damaged nerve that paralyzes the whole side of the face.
Yeah.
And that's what it would be. No pain, but just discomfort because there's no movement.
Well, I don't know if you were here to when Elisa was talking. When Elisa, so she was paralyzed before we began working, and now she was up dancing before. And so the techniques are really powerful. And so, and one of the things is too, is when you go to the doctor, you have something that's wrong, you've probably done the physical therapy, you've probably done, the chiropractic, the massage, and taken any nutraceuticals or pharmaceuticals, but something's still going on. Does that make sense? Yeah, a lot of people have done that, and that was the same with me. Well, once we get your energy cohesive, and once we get your energy really connected, everything is possible. Because if we have our hands touching at the level of the atom, there's no way to determine where you end and where I begin. So if we're touching in that, it's the same thing with this kind of distance. So, okay, so we got the shoulder over here, and we got the hip, and we got the back, and then we got the arms. Okay, so everybody takes a really deep breath, and know too that we're always connected to Creator. We always have Creator's energy in us. They've done studies that they actually could hook us up to instruments, and we have enough energy inside of us that we could literally light up Times Square, New York. So that's what we have inside of us. So, and then how about some people that are interested in a reading? Just a mini reading? Okay. Okay. So, you?
Iona.
Okay. So what's your name?
Iona.
Iona. Okay. So you're really, really curious. You're very curious, and you notice things too. You can go for a walk and you'll notice stuff that your friends don't notice. And your heart is really, really open. And you actually, when you sit with people, they probably say that they start to feel better just by sitting.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. We all have ability to heal. It doesn't have to be specific things, just by our existence. So people start to feel better by being with you. It is something that when you get bored, it's not a good thing. When you get bored, your energy just goes really down. So the more that you can actually investigate things and stuff, and then when you connect soul to soul with people, it's really.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Somebody over here. Okay, so I know your name's Sam, and I've seen you around a lot, but I don't know hardly anything about you. And so, you're really, really, really strong. I mean, so like kind of a maple. People go to you and they just really trust you. When they're feeling weak, they'll come to you, they'll ask you for questions, and they know that you're a safe haven. They know that just by hanging out with you, that you got a protective thing about you. You actually kind of are like a tigress at sometimes. If people mess with you, it's the wrong thing to do. And your soul is really deep, and you just really want love with and for other people. Yeah, cool. Great. Cool. Okay. So you have this energy that's really, really nurturing, kind of almost like, you know, an Italian grandma in a way. You know, where you make sure that everybody's okay, and then you make sure that everybody's okay, and then you make sure, yeah. So that kind of thing. You really want to make sure that everybody's okay, that they feel good, and it's really, really, really important for you. Really important that people respect and people are safe. If you see disrespect, it's something that really lights you up, not in a good way, but in a very protective way. And so for you, you know, it's always interesting when I hit my nose. It's like the nose. When you get silent, it's really strong, but you don't get silent enough. And then if you wanted to actually increase your connection with the Creator, is to go find a rock, a big rock, and sit on, or a tree. And so if you sit up against a tree or sit on a rock, it'd be very, very powerful. Okay, cool. Question?
Oh, I thought you were going to still do it.
Okay, well, let's see. Whoops.
It went the other way, but now we have 30, we're done. 40.
It's 11:30.
I don't know what happened.
Okay, so can we start again?
You want to start?
Yeah. And so Sam, you know, and so what we do, and this is something, so at the end I'm going to talk about if you want to work with me to do that. And then also on the 11th, I'm doing a webinar for women. So Sam, and what we do is we look at the energy. We look at physical, emotional, psychological, psychic, spiritual, safely. And often I'll lose my train of thought. And so we look at the physical, but the physical goes right to the emotional, and then the emotional to the spiritual. And then, what do you notice now, Sam?
I noticed that I wanted to copy you without thinking about it. It's
Okay.
like moving apart.
And what's the level right now?
I'd say about a 4 to 5, but I do feel as if it's receding.
Okay.
As I'm manipulating it, it isn't as sharp as it has been.
Cool. It's not as sharp as it had been. And that's the thing where I really, really like my work. And be able to make a difference. You know, and so we'll continue to work. And there's some more seats if you want to sit down. And so I'm going to continue to work on you, and we'll see this. And that's the thing where I can multitask with this. And so we got the hip and we got the arm. And so it's very, very often things are similar. And you notice it's like I don't look at you when I work with you. If I look away, I can sense you and feel your energy a whole lot more. And so we take some really deep breath. Okay? And remember the healing energy for you too. And so, okay, so we got the hip and the arm. And the arm is about I love. And it's like I love, then I can't. And then I love, and then it's lost. Okay? And then we got some physical energy, some emotional energy. And the physical and emotional is the same here. And then the emotional, the physical. And then, so this is something when I teach, it's an absolute blast because I teach the healing work. And when I have a room full of 22 students and they're all working with each other, I'm like, okay, you got to work more on the legs over there. and it's so often too because we grew up thinking, you know, the shin bone connected to the knee bone connected to the hip bone. But it's more complete energy instead of the absolute things. People will come in and say, I got back problems. And I'll say, well, actually, you got shoulder and neck problems that's causing the back problems. So what kind of questions is this bringing up for people? Anybody have any questions yet? And what are you noticing in the hip right now?
It's better.
Yeah. See, this is the thing, and so, and people will say, oh, it's mind over matter, okay? My youngest client was a six-week-old baby, okay? So I don't know how you can address the mindset of a 6-week-old baby. Okay? And my biggest client was a 16-hand Percheron. That basically means that the bottom of that horse's mouth was about here. So I don't know how I could convince a horse to think something or to feel something, and I certainly can't make a 6-week-old baby. So I've had so many clients get embarrassed because it's like, God, you know, what's wrong? I've been trying and then you didn't do anything, and I'm okay, so it had to be mind over matter. What's wrong with me? I was like, no. Even when we address the energies, when we address the emotional or we address the psychological, it doesn't mean you have an emotional issue. It doesn't mean you have a psychological issue. It just simply means that the energy is stuck. And so as we pay attention to that, your body's like, oh. And so what I liken it to is when you're back in grade school, the teacher leaves the room and Johnny starts to misbehave. Well, all of a sudden the teacher comes back in the room. She doesn't have to tell Johnny to go sit down. Johnny's like, oh, I'm supposed to go sit down. And that's what it is with the energy. As I pay attention to you, things will actually shift and change. And that's the thing, it's like, okay, you have all the test results, you got the MRIs, you got the SPECT scan, nothing's gonna happen, you're not gonna walk, blah, 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 blah. Well, we come in there and there was, when she talked about the trauma, she had all these mindsets, and it was like, this is what she's been told, these are the horrible experiences, this is all the nasty abuse, this is all the horrible, horrible stuff that was keeping her all, paralyzed. We come in there and we started to do some work, and when there's really significant injuries, I will do body work with people. And so we connected and we did some body work. And then she told me all these things that she knew. And I said, okay, cool. Everything that you know has gotten you to here. If you want to get past here, you got to forget what you know. And when I work with naturopaths, for example, naturopaths know exactly when you smell something or you taste something, all the way through that it goes to your body. It goes from A to Z, and they know that whole pathway because of all their studies. And so I'll look at them really, really lovingly, and I'll tell them, hey, get stupid real quick. Forget everything you know. So because in order to be able to get past this, we have to be able to forget everything that is holding us back. So everybody take some really deep breaths. And I'm going to continue. And so what are you noticing with your arm?
Warm, wonderful energy.
Yeah?
Yes.
So
Yes.
and this is something, I just love the fact that you guys give me this opportunity, because I don't do drugs, but this gets me freaking out. And if you guys want to check something out too, I have to try that copper thing in the back, because standing by that copper thing, oh my God, is that a trip. I mean, it's based on Tesla's, it's back in the big room, and it's based on all of Tesla's work. And it's got copper and crystals that do different things, and it's been measured by all kinds of scientific organizations. It's cool. So, as you can see, when we work on things, we work on the physical, and we work on the emotional. So I'm going to talk about a couple of clients as we continue. One of the women came to me, and a month and a half into our coaching, she goes, Joe, I got to tell you something. And she goes, before I came to you, I was at the beach. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, let's explore. And she goes, no. She goes, I don't know how to swim. I hate the water, and I don't like the sand. I'm like, okay. And she goes, she was there, and she goes, Joe, a friend of mine called me up when I was at the beach, and she had heard the noise, and she goes, where are you? She said, I'm at the beach. She goes, why are you at the beach? She goes, you hate the water, you hate the sand, you can't swim. Why are you at the beach? She said, I was going to walk into the water. I was going to let the waves take me. So she said, Joe, when I came to you, it was either going to be the waves or it was going to be you. But my friend had such incredible results that I decided to come to you. So this woman was an amazing woman. She was headhunted 3 times. And so what that means, she was an executive, and she was recruited by a better firm, and she went to a higher level of money, a higher level of responsibility. She was recruited again. She went to a higher level of money, higher level of responsibility. She was recruited a 3rd time. She was so well respected and so well liked and so good with teams that she kept on getting promotions. But her life was horrible. She was miserable. She grew up in really religious, ritualistic abuse, and it was very bad. And then she went on to abusive boyfriend and abusive husbands, had 2 abusive, and she couldn't date to save her life, but she didn't like herself. She hated herself because that was the only vibration that was comfortable. And after we worked, about 6 weeks after we worked, it was her 65th birthday, and she was walking up to the birthday party, and her daughter says, "Mom, you're here." "Oh yeah, of course I'm here. It's my birthday. You invited me to it." "No, Mom, you're here. You're here." And they cried, and they went for a walk. She said, "Mom, this is the first time." He goes, "This is the first time I've seen you happy at a birthday party since I was 9 years old." He goes, "Mom, you hate birthday parties. You can't stay on birthday parties. You grudgingly come. And you're happy and you want to be here." And that was because of the intuitive coaching, because the coaching, you all talked about the fact that you've done mindset. You've done the hard work. You've done all of this self-help stuff. But there's something still holding you back. And that's what we do, is we come in and we clear this. We clear the energy. And just like we're clearing the physical things, we clear the emotional. So that was her. There was another woman. And so, I'm still good on that, okay? There was another woman, and she called me up because she had an incessant bladder infection. She just could not get rid of this bladder infection for over a year and a half. And it kept on showing up no matter what she did. She even did panels and nothing worked. And I said, "Well, it's because you're pissed." And she also, she grew up in rural Iowa, where they would go to church on Wednesday night for 3 or 4 hours. They would go to church on Sunday, 2 hours in the morning, and then 2 to 3 hours in the evening. And then she was sexually abused. She was sexually abused by these wonderful ministers. And it went on and it went on, from minister to minister to minister. And all of these different things. And then on top of it, she knew when she was a young girl that she liked girls. But it was something that only perverts like girls. Only horrible, degenerates like girls. And so she grew up with all of this stuff. Meanwhile, every relationship she had with a man was horrible. So as we cleared this, the bladder infection went away for the first time in a year and a half. And then I helped her, and I said, and she kept on all these different things. And she came to the realization, I can't stay married. I can't stay married. And I said, yeah, I understand that. And so she came out of the closet, admitted who she was, confronted the church, and it was an incredible experience. And so it's been quite a while. She's not had any bladder infection. She's actually stood in her space, and she's talked to the church. Oh wow, okay. I guess I have a whole lot less time than I thought. So I'm going to teach you real quick the 3 things. Here, okay. So, and Sherry, what did you say was back? Okay.
Sorry, there is nothing
So Siri thought I was talking to her when I was talking to Sherry. So I want to teach these techniques, and I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the shepherd's hook, because I honestly was told that I was starting 15 minutes later than I was. So one of the techniques, the very first one, is so darn easy. You simply roll your shoulders back a little bit, okay? And then you, everybody stand up if you can. You roll your shoulders back, and then you tilt your chin just 10 degrees. You don't have to crank, just a little bit, 10 degrees. And then simultaneously do a Kegel and a glute squeeze. So a Kegel is basically squeezing to stop the urine flow. And then squeeze your butt muscles as tight as you can. Just hold that for a little bit. And then you're restricted by space, but just take a teeny step back, and then a teeny step forward. Okay. And I'm going to have you do that 2 more times. And I want you to be aware of what you sense physically. So roll your shoulders just a little bit, tilt your chin, squeeze and squeeze. And start to feel, what do you notice in your body? And then release, and go backwards, and then come forward. And then one more time, do it and just feel your system, feel your energy. And breathe in, and release. And then step back, and then step forward. So you all can sit down. What did you notice?
Energy throughout the body.
You feel the energy throughout the body? Yeah. This is something that is, when I do this with the football players, it increases their hand-eye coordination. They can run faster and they can lift more weight. So for us, what it does is it literally connects the energy, and it does this beautiful, wonderful loop. And we are so disconnected that we forget that. So that one is the Google movement. And again, if you go to the joep360.com, you can click on there, you can get the video and the PDF. This next one is really sensitive, and I want you to just take in, because it's sacred energy. And this is something that can be mapped out. You can see it on curly in photography. You can actually see it when they're doing acupuncture. If you have somebody read a pulse. But it's really simple. And simply all you do is you put your hand over your first and second chakra, and then you put your hand over your heart. And the first and second, the first is safety and security. The second is your sexuality, your creativity, and your hormones. And the creativity in most of us has been assaulted. Who are you to think you deserve that? Oh, you think you're special? So all of those kinds of things really negatively affect our creativity, which is going to negatively affect the way that the hormones flow. So you don't have to move your hand there, you just simply bring the energy to that. And what happens is you'll have this energy that will go forward. So just try it and see what you notice. And typically people will say that they feel safe, or that they feel this kind of a sense of release. Has anybody noticed a shift in themselves? Pardon? More peace. I can see smiles. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to teach you the one that is so darn powerful. And don't use just this, for protection or things like that. But like I say, my mentor taught this at the abuse shelter. And it is so darn simple. And you don't have to touch yourself. You just start at your crown, which is your connection to Creator. And you bring your fingers over your midline. And then when you get to your root chakra, you push the energy away. And when you do this, what you do is all that which is mine is mine. So you're literally like zippering your energy up. All that which is mine is mine. And then you push away all that which is yours is yours. And I never ever do it to somebody right to them unless I want them to feel it. Because if you practice this, you say all that which is mine is mine, all that which is yours, they will, sometimes they'll stumble, or they'll definitely move their body, or they'll stop saying what they were saying. But you gotta practice it a lot. All that which is mine is mine, all that which is yours is yours. And I've had people, there was a client of mine, and she had rescued 2 dogs, and they were yappers. Yapper, yapper, yapper. Okay, I gotta wrap it up really, really quick. But she did this, all that which is mine is mine, all that which is yours is yours. All that which is mine is mine, all that which is yours is yours. And she did it, and the yapper stopped barking. I'm told I want to be respectful of other people's time, but I'm sorry that I didn't know that, So if you want to work with me, I'm in the booth inside. You'll see me. There's a bigger than me guy out there. But if you go to Joe P360, you can click on and you can have a discussion. You can say, hey, Joe, I got this issue going on. I got this issue. Do you think you can support me? Do you think you can help me? And we can do that. And then if you want to coach with me, it's the same thing. I love to see the results. It can bring people such an amount of happiness, and I call it wisdom, wellness, and wealth. And we have to be wise in that subconscious. We have to be understanding what's holding us back, and then we have to write something better to be able to go forward. And I clear the energy, and that's the biggest thing. And so I love it, and I'm trying to think of okay, so I'll be out at my booth. This is a lunch place, so I won't stay right here. But in the other room, come and I'll talk to you. I'm going to be here the rest of the day. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate you. Does anybody, so young lady, is somebody going to come in here, or do we have to get out of here?
Well, if there is a 5-minute or 4-minute rundown in between that and the speaker right now, leave and then uploader, speaker comes in.
Okay, so I should leave so they can come in. But like I say, I'm going to be in the other room,